Here's something nobody tells you about self-improvement. It might be making you miserable. I'm not talking about people who read a book occasionally or hit the gym. I'm talking about the person who has 17 tabs open right now about productivity hacks. The person who feels guilty taking a day off. The person who's been working on themselves for 3 years straight and somehow feels further from okay than when they started. Researchers have found that the exact same behaviors that help people grow, reflection, goal setting, skill building, can become what one study calls engines of endless dissatisfaction. Today, I'm breaking down the psychological mechanisms that turn self-improvement into self-destruction, why the modern internet makes this trap almost unavoidable, and the evidence-based strategies to escape it. Because the problem isn't that you want to grow, the problem is how you're trying to do it. When researchers study behavioral addictions, things like problematic social media use, they look for specific features. Intense self-improvement can check every box. Your mind constantly circles back to what you need to fix. You scroll productivity TikTok at 2 a.m. because you feel behind. One podcast isn't enough anymore. You need 3 courses running simultaneously. And when you try to stop, you feel guilty or like you're wasting your potential. It interferes with relationships and actually doing things instead of preparing to do things. If you felt your stomach drop, stay with me. There are 3 psychological mechanisms creating this trap. Research distinguishes perfectionistic strivings, high standards, from perfectionistic concerns, fear of failure, and harsh self-criticism. Meta-analyses show perfectionistic concerns are a risk factor across depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. Here's what this looks like. You finish a course on emotional intelligence, but you immediately think, I still got triggered yesterday, so I haven't actually learned anything, so I need a better course. The standards don't just stay high, they move. Every time you meet one, it shifts further away. Self-determination theory makes a critical distinction. Intrinsic motivation, doing something because it's genuinely interesting or aligned with your values. Extrinsic motivation, doing it for approval or to avoid shame. When your self-improvement is driven by external contingencies, how you look to others, avoiding shame, research shows motivation is fragile. You become emotionally dependent on progress signals, certificates, streak counters, likes on your 5 a.m. club posts. Back in the 1950s, psychologist Leon Festinger showed humans naturally use others as reference points. That's normal. What's not normal is the modern internet. Social media has turned occasional comparison into a 24/7 upward comparison machine. Research consistently shows upward social comparisons undermine self-esteem and increase motivation to change yourself in maladaptive ways. The spiral. You compare, feel lacking, pursue more improvement, compare again, feel worse because now you've failed at the improvement program too. And here's the insidious part. Self-improvement activities produce variable rewards. Sometimes something clicks, sometimes it doesn't. That's the exact learning dynamic that makes slot machines addictive. When rewards are unpredictable, behavior becomes resistant to extinction. Over time, you escalate. More programs, more books chasing that same lift. In addiction research, that's called tolerance. The personal development industry is worth tens of billions of dollars globally. That means infinite supply and constant messaging that more is possible. For many people, stopping feels like a missed opportunity. There's always another framework that might be the real answer. Now, some self-help works. Research on guided self-help shows real benefits. But unguided, piecemeal healing binges, trying to implement advice from 7 sources simultaneously, often produce exhaustion. The abundance itself becomes the problem. When this cycle deepens, the costs show up everywhere. Chronic anxiety, decision paralysis, so many options that you can't sustain any plan, burnout, relationships suffer because all your energy goes to self-optimization. You avoid therapy because you believe you should fix yourself first. Research confirms high self-improvement drive combined with self-criticism is a risk factor for mood and anxiety disorders. The very thing you're doing to feel better is making you worse. The goal isn't to stop growing. The goal is to make growth sustainable and connected to your actual values. Think about whatever you're currently pursuing. Ask, why am I doing this? If the honest answer is mainly to avoid shame or keep up with others, that's a red flag. Research shows extrinsic motivation is fragile and depleting. Instead, look for intrinsic values, relationships, mastery for its own sake, health. Not I need to be a morning person because successful people wake up early, but I want quiet time to read, which I genuinely enjoy. Fewer high-quality resources with accountability beats constant churn. Research on guided self-help shows it outperforms unguided binging. Practically pick one thing, one book, one course, give it 90 days with accountability. Actually finish it before starting something new. The buffet approach keeps you in the loop. Bad goal, become a disciplined person. Identity level, all or nothing. Good goal, practice 20 minutes 3 times a week. Behavioral level, achievable. This reduces perfectionism because you're measuring action, not transformation. Cognitive behavioral therapy for perfectionism uses intentional imperfection. Post a video with a small mistake. Send an email without rereading it 5 times. These experiments reduce fear of failure. Most of the time, nothing bad happens. Also, unfollow productivity influencers if they make you feel behind because you cannot out-discipline a slot machine. The platform is designed to create inadequacy. Reducing exposure is intelligent boundary setting. Intentionally schedule non-goal-oriented activities. Play, social connection, doing nothing. Harvard Health research shows constant busyness has mental health costs. Restorative practice is essential. And if self-improvement efforts are increasing your anxiety or you've tried to stop and can't, therapy that addresses perfectionism is indicated. Going to therapy isn't evidence you failed. Sometimes the most intelligent form of self-improvement is getting help to change your relationship with self-improvement. Self-improvement isn't inherently bad. The psychological problem arises when it becomes your main source of self-worth, when motivation is dominated by avoiding shame, and when it's ruled by fear rather than curiosity. From Benjamin Franklin's virtue charts to modern therapy, disciplined self-work can be helpful. The trick, make it sustainable, connect it to values, calibrate it to human limits instead of turning it into an endless project that replaces living. You are not a problem that needs solving. You're a person who's allowed to grow and rest, who's allowed to be imperfect and worthy. The real work, it might not be fixing yourself. It might be learning that you were never broken in the first place. If this resonated, let me know in the comments what part you recognize in your own life. Subscribe for more psychology breakdowns. See you in the next one.